for high juicy news. Mima Obibia Akwaba. Latest hot news enamede brabo. Na ansana and something na bebano. So we subscribe ya. Bomodi say over subscribe. Na like video give us a thumbs up na fi share ma wo fufro so na we be na wo hu and someone ekoso e wo Ghana me mo hanam. Afi you share a year and someone abeto yapno so. Inkuti a yes report ya ababetu ya momenti a yes report.
When things are good, people would say it is good. When things are going bad, they'll say it is bad. And when they say it is good, we will report it. When they say it's bad, we will report it. In 2023-24, we were reporting that most Ghanaians say standard of living has gotten worse. Nobody disputed that. Nobody disagreed that people were saying things are hard. When the government changes, we continue doing the same poll, talking to the same people, using a cross-sectional poll. And they are giving us different story now. So why would you think that these people are lying? Why would any politicians with any sense of data think that people are lying to us, that things are hard? Why? 66% of the people are saying Ghana is headed in the right direction. It was 34% in October 2024. At the moment, 67% of voters are saying they approve of the way the Mahama is doing his work. October last year, it was 34% for Nanado. At the moment, 56% of Ghanaians are saying that their living conditions has improved compared to last year. October last year, the figure was around 30%. Who said it has improved? When we ask voters about optimism for the future, now 70% are optimistic that things will improve in the future. In October last year, those who were optimistic things will improve were 40% or so, much less. This is the reality on the ground. This is the data. You can't fight this data. If you do, voters will see you as dishonest and they can't trust you. Especially from people in academia, people with PhD, professors, about our methodology and way of doing the polls. We've been through this before when we started the polling, and we've got good counseling from senior people in the academia who we sat with them to go through what we do, methodology and approach. And not just them. In the last election, there were people from the United States. There were pollsters hired by some of these political parties you see. Pollsters, not researchers, pollsters. I remember polling is different from just normal research. Let that be clear. When you do polling, you deal with volumes of data, volume of quantitative data. And research, qualitative research, it's just few people here and there. You sample their field qualitatively, analyze it, synthesize it, and draw conclusions. In polling, it's pure numbers game. And it's quite expensive to do polling. Imagining deploying people across 84 constituencies or 85 or 100 constituencies every 90 days. Luckily, we have volunteers who do that, so we don't pay them very expensive rate when we do public opinion poll for the public consumption. We've also invested in technology and the platform, which with the fixed cost, sunk cost, we pay for a lot of money to be able to do these polls using the platform. And the platforms are not by any others, but by well-leading polling software companies. One of them is based in Israel. It's an Israeli company that supports our platform. And that is an American company And these are tools designed for polling. So when we're able to turn around quickly, it's because the tools we use and the people we have in the field readily available every corner of this country. We can do polling simultaneously across 276 constituencies if we have the resources. We can interview 200,000 people in 10 days. Yeah, that's the capacity we have. And this capacity has been used to support private clients as well, because they keep us going. It's the revenue from the private clients when it comes to market research that give us the energy and the oil to continue to support the public opinion poll, which we do for free. So this is how we've been doing our business. And our business model is based on this arrangement, because once we do the public opinion poll, we have the credibility. International clients always come to us. Yes, because they know that we've done it before and they've seen the result of what we have done, so they have trust and confidence in what we do. Now, let me take you to methodology first, which is very critical. I've seen a lot of people with PhD bashing us, we do this, do that, and some people even write a long critique without having even seen the report. They haven't even gotten in touch with us, so let me see your full report and let me peruse it, and then they will write my critique. They didn't do that. They just jumped to criticize because they want to criticize. They want to be heard. And unfortunately, I mean, you get egg on your face when you do that, because we do things with rigor here, very rigorously. Last year we had a discussion with a U.S. poster from one of the states in America. I think I was then visiting in the UK, my family in the UK, and they arranged for a meeting to have a discussion with us on our methodology and our approach in the context of polling. Polling, because if you are doing normal research, social research, the same methodologies you can apply to political polling. You must understand, you must know. So we have led the trade by understanding our people, understanding the politics, understanding how our people see things and how they even respond to persons in the field. So that art is not science. It's an art. Well, if you're science, you just follow process. No, but within the science, you must employ an art. It's an art. So let's look at what we've been through. These are people who have worked with big polling companies in the US. Rasmussen polls, Zogby polls, Siena polls, Morrison polls. I mean, so many polling organizations. So we went through our approach, and they went through their approach, how they do it in the US, and find out if this is how they do it in the US. How would we do that in Ghana? Looking at our Ghana context. In the US, when you register to vote, you give your telephone number, your email, your political party affiliation. So they know that you are here. You are Mr. Musa Dankwa. You are of this age. This is your gender. This is your party affiliation. That data is available to everybody who wants to buy them and use them to do polling. So in America, they do telephone polls, largely in the past. No face-to-face field survey. No, they've gone past that stage. Now, at the time last year, I think 45% of voters in America were Republicans, about 44 or 43 were Democrats, and the rest were independent. So when they are sampling, the sampling is based on party affiliation and not the states. The sample will be drawn across the state of America. But in the end, when you aggregate them, you have Republicans 45%, Democrats maybe 43%, and the rest are the independent voters. So when they are placing calls randomly, the system is designed that it will place call to a number of voters who would amount to 45% of the sample. a number of voters who will amount to 43% of Democrats and Independents. When they finish, they analyze it. And what has been the sample size for the polling in the US and even UK? Average polling for America as a country is about 1,500, 1,600. The only polls that I've seen them do a big sample in America, I think is more, I think it's Siena poll, something like that. In the last election, they did about 6,000 samples in America of over 150 million voters. 6,000 samples. I repeat, 6,000 samples. So when they finished polling, the system does the polling automatically, limiting it to the 45% ratio that we've given across the whole of America. And when they are done, they analyze it. And some of the polls is live, some are just interactive. The phone calls you when you pick, then it goes through a process. If you are Republicans, press 1, if you this. So it goes through that automated kind of response. In Ghana here, we haven't got that capacity. So what have we done to go around this problem? We have over the years been doing what we call cross-sectional polling. You know what is cross-sectional polling? Cross-sectional polling simply means that we draw a sample randomly from across the country, not from the same location. We pick randomly. So if this time we run a simulation in our system that we want to interview 30% of constituencies, give me a number of constituencies from anywhere in the country, that will be 30%. We will pick constituencies for us. And it will not pick constituencies more than what we have started in the current voting system. So it will go to Ashanti region and pick 30% randomly. Goes to Oti, pick 30% randomly. Go to every region and pick randomly 30%. And that 30%, when you aggregate, gives you around 83 or 84 constituencies that we have when we poll. Because we cannot deploy in all the 276. And sampling doesn't mean you should go to everywhere. Those who don't understand statistics and sampling must learn this. You don't need to go to every constituency to know what the country is thinking. You don't need to go to every MMD to know what the country is thinking. The sample you picked from Ashanti region will represent Ashanti region views. The sample you picked from Greater Accra will represent Greater Accra views. You can't interview everybody. So sampling has to apply. Once we have done that, we have picked where we want to go. Then we say to ourselves, what margin of error do we want to entertain? Or what confidence level do we want to have in the poll we are currently doing? And what margin of error do we want to entertain at the global level for this survey? We have a system, a model that we have inputted all the constituencies in this country and all the electoral areas in this country in the system with all the voting population of every electoral area in the system. We've taken time to build this. We spoke to EC, and the EC gave us the electoral roll, not by names, but electoral areas and the number of people who vote there. Electoral area code, everything, we have it in the system. So we can tell the system to say that we have a sample of 8,000 people we want to interview. Can you please allocate this 8,000 using the EC sample frame so that we'll know how many of these 8,000 should go to Ashanti region, should go to Eastern region, Greater Accra. So the system will pick the weighting in the EC register and say, out of this 8,000, you must put 1,500 to Greater Accra, 1,350 Ashanti region, 1,000 this to Central. It will do that proportionately and scientifically. Scientifically, not by our stomach whims and caprices. No, scientifically. Once we have the regional quotas, Then we say, assign this quota for Ashanti region to 30% of the constituencies that the system will pick randomly. So the system will run through the 47 constituencies and pick 30% of that, which normally comes around 14 constituencies, randomly. And then the next step is to allocate the Ashanti region quota to this or to these constituencies based on the size of the voters in that constituency. And if you pick constituencies in Ashanti region, include Kwabena East. Kwabena East is the largest constituency in Ashanti region. So it will get a bit more of the sample given to Ashanti region than Asawasi, than Fomina, than the. So it is done proportionately weighted step by step. No, let me explain to them, because some of them think that to be a poster you must have a PhD. In fact, you don't have to have a PhD to be a poster. No. We are telling you how it is done. But the tools we have, you may not have it to you to deploy it. But if you want to do polling, sincere polling, honest polling, these are the steps. So when we do that, we've done the regional sample allocation, we've done the constituency allocation. Then the question is, if you have picked Kwabena East and this and that, where in Kwabena East would you deploy this sample? If you do it manually, you can target NDC electoral areas in Kwabena East and go and do it there. That's deceiving yourself. If you pick, for example, near the BRC, which is NDC constituency, and you go to the NPP stronghold in that near the BRC, you are deceiving yourself. If you go to NPP areas near the BRC, you are deceiving yourself. So we pick randomly structured. You can either say that, look, let me pick my sample randomly from anywhere in near the BRC, 3 electoral areas. If the sample we are deploying in that area is about 150, then we will allocate it to 3 electoral areas. And in that electoral areas, more sample will go to the electoral area with the highest population. So if it's 151, either may get maybe 59, one will get 42, and then in that order. The sample to that constituency is again shared to the electoral areas based on the size of the electoral area. You can pick that randomly, but if you pick that randomly, it could be very expensive to implement, because you may pick one electoral area very far from the other. And that means that you must pay the field officer a lot of money to move him from one place to the other. So you have to balance the options you have. Or you say that, okay, I will deploy this sample to the top 3 electoral areas by population. So EC will tell you that the biggest electoral area in this constituency is this place, and that place, and that place. Then you can deploy the sample in the largest electoral areas. Because remember, the national tracking pool, the focus is not on the constituency, but the national. So if you draw the sample from these top electoral areas, it gives you a fair percentage of that constituency. But if we are doing a specific constituency polling, then what we do is to cover either the entire electoral areas in that constituency, or you see that let's cover 70% of the electoral areas. That account for 80% of the vote. So there are kind of vigorous, steps we take to assure us that, look, what we get will reflect the views from that constituency. But for national, look, you pick 3 here in one constituency across the country. So the variation in the pick would remove any biases in the end. That's what we do. And when we deploy in the field, what do we do? There are certain things we do. And for those of you who want to learn the trade of polling and survey, there are certain things you do that enhances the quality of the data. The randomness which you use in deploying the people in the field and engaging voters is also important. Don't target specific people because they fit certain description. Don't target people because they sit in the base. In fact, and look, when you go into community to interview them, and you see people sitting in a group, the best practice is not to interview the entire group. To pick 2 or 3 from the group and you move on. Even if you can stand there and finish all your sample, it is not advisable to do that. And our officers know this. He may be in a hurry to finish the sample, but he will not sit at one place and finish all, because it will be a group thinking. And those of you who know research, if you do a group thinking, once one sheep jump, the rest will keep jumping. So you get a group thinking. We don't want group thinking. We want the national view. So we want you to go elsewhere to interview. And we've had this experience before, and I'll tell you. In Tamale Central, we did a poll in Tamale Central, and it was unusually skewed towards NPP. When I saw the data, I was worried. And indeed, Honorable Muntala Miso called me that he's seen a poll that says that NPP is leading in his constituency. And I said, well, I've seen it, but let me do some checks and I'll get back to you. So I called my field officer. I said, can you tell me what happened on this day in this electoral area that you went? Because we know each electoral area and how they tilt. How did you go to, let's say, Medina West electoral area and NPP was winning hands down? That is a flag. And I asked him, and see, our people are trained to be honest. They don't lie. We'll tell you, be honest with us, and we'll let you, guide you through how to do things better next time. And he said to me that, when he was doing the survey, he got to a point in Tamale Central where women's group were having an event. And he felt, oh, I have about 50 left, so let me do it here because the women are here. It happened to be an MPP women event. And the views he got there were MPP women's view. And we really told him that we have already given you a guide that don't interview groups. Just 3 from the group is okay. But because you spend the whole time with that group, it became group thinking. That's a lesson that you must learn, that don't do that next time. So we regularly remind people, train them before we go to the field. So they are aware of some of the things that we do, do's and don'ts in the field. And also what people don't know is that we have the means to know where the officer went. We have GPS on our system. So if we ask you to go to an electoral area and you go to somewhere else, we will know that you didn't go there. How many of the researchers have these tools that are effectively being deployed? We can run a report of our survey and put a map of Ghana and tell you where every survey was taken from. GPS location. We have that. And the team know we have this. They know they are working with a tool that we can track them. So if you're working for a client and clients want data from these areas, they won't see the footprint of where the data was collected. We have that because we have invested money in this platform. It doesn't come cheap. So when you sit there, you talk about this sampling and this, that, and this, that, we just laugh at you because look, we know what we are doing. We know what we're doing. So the system is there. It costs money to support the system. And that is why you've never heard that we have been hacked before. You haven't asked, why have they not been hacked before? Because our platform is managed by serious IT companies. They own them. Some of the platform we are on, the big companies are on it. So if you hack us, it's not us you've hacked the entire platform. So we are very comfortable. We don't sleep and lose sleep that somebody will hack our system. We don't have anything on our system, local system, no. When they stole my laptop, they thought there's things there. There's nothing. Everything's on the cloud base. So we are doing a very serious job. So we tell you the methodology, the approach, the sampling, statistics, and the number of people we interview is a statistical derivative. It is not from my stomach. we say that if we are going to do a national tracking poll of voters, and we have 18 million voters, statistically, 18 million voters, and we want to have 99% confidence in the data we are going to bring, and we want to entertain a margin of error of 1.5%, what number of people should we interview nationally to give us this confidence level and this margin of error? So the product of these variables is the sample size. So when people sit on social media and TV, the sample size is too small, you are interviewing 1,500, 2,000 NPP people, there are 200,000 people, apply the mathematics of statistics or the formula of statistics and see what number you get. And how do you deploy them? Those who say they are interviewing delegates, how are they interviewing delegates? We have the number of delegates, their phone numbers, their electoral areas, constituencies in the region in our system, full of them. Everybody is there. So if we are interviewing 2,500 MPP delegates, we tell the system that randomly pick 18% of the sample from Asante region, anywhere in Asante region. So when the person says call, the system will just pick any phone number from anywhere. People say, oh, why is that you haven't called me before? We have called people from every constituency in Asante region, in Ghana here. If you like, gather all your colleagues and ask them who has received a call from Global Info, and they will tell you. We have called agents sitting in the office, working, sometimes working from home. As we speak to you today, holiday, people are calling delegates. People are calling delegates as we speak to you, randomly on the telephone system. And if we call you and you don't answer, the system will classify that this number did not respond. This number says don't call me again. So we know what we do. Please, we're not joking. It's a company. We're not a think tank. We're not a CSO. We're not an individual doing research in our rooms. Our office is in Ato, big office. Systems and television, we can see what is happening on the ground in real time. We don't wait for people to make mistakes before we correct them. The system we have has an inbuilt AI that if responses are coming and the pattern are a certain way, it will flag it. So we go back to check, why is this being flagged? Sometimes it tells you that on the average it takes 5 minutes to do this poll, but this field officer has taken 3 minutes. So to flag it. So we call them, why is it taking everybody 5 minutes? You inquire, it's taking you 3 minutes. Sometimes you get to know that maybe he's interviewing people, and those people are just sitting next to next, and they are hearing the conversation. And in polling, you don't do that. You let the people have their privacy, because you don't want the other person who you want to interview next, if it's a group also, to hear what answers this person is giving. Once he hears him, he would like to conform. He wants to blend in. We don't do that. So we train them. They know the value of observing these things in the field. So despite the statistical, if you don't kind of inculcate this habit and this behavior among your field officers, you get garbage. You get garbage. Our people are trained every month when they go to the field. We tell them the questions, what they mean, and how it should be asked. In other languages, Cree, Ga, we go through all this. And then we get the data from the field. If we feel that the quality of the data is not good, we sometimes cancel the entire survey and send new persons. The recent poll we did in somewhere, I think in Bole, one of the officers was conflicted. He didn't tell us. So you see, and this is a very serious matter. Conflict of interest. We take it very seriously. But some of you wouldn't. We were doing a poll on who should be MMDC in certain areas. And one of the field officers, his family member was one of the MCEs. He didn't disclose. And we've told them that if you have a conflict of interest, disclose it. He didn't disclose. We got to know. What did we do? We cancelled the entire survey that he has done. we cancel the entire survey that person with conflict of interest has done, and deploy a new person from a different constituency to come in to do it in Bole, Bamboy, because data we felt was compromised. That is how serious we take ethics. How many of you will do that? When you know it's going to cost you money, we have to pay him for what he has done, but still pay another person to repeat what he has done. Yes. Those of you who are here insulting the NPP people, I feel sorry for you. Honestly, instead of learning things, you are insulting, but it's good. Some of you will learn, others will insult. So that is the methodology and approach that we do to compile the data. We use a sophisticated system, an inbuilt system with AI capabilities, flagging. We even have a system that can record the conversation between the field officer and the voter. So we can play back the conversation. In fact, our calling system records the conversation. So we can do quality control by randomly picking voices and play and see how the persons were asked. Were they asked cuely or were they asked objectively? And that will inform our quality control training we do. So we are always training, retraining, and building our people's capacity to do things right. We have done polling for all the entities and the parties people are talking about. Some come privately, we have on data. In 2022, 2023, we've done that for all most of the campaigns. We've done it. Data to understand where the race are. We know, we are confident that we're not doing any jandam for any political party, because we're not here to serve them. We have a bigger client, a client who pays better, the client who will give you global recognition. We don't want recognition from NPP and NDC. No. We want recognition from the global companies who we work for, Johnson & Johnson. Our client include Deloitte South Africa, Deloitte Ghana. We've done work for Diageo. No Diageo? We have done work that involves surveying the entire country, identify outlets that sell beverages in the entire country. We did that. We think it's a joke. We are a company. But we decided to put part of our resources into doing public good. So that's our methodology. Now let's come to what you guys want to hear. The NPP and NDC, and the national. Let's start with the national opinion poll. Look, let's be very honest. When things are good, people would say it is good. When things are going bad, they'll say it is bad. And when they say it is good, we will report it. When they say it's bad, we will report it. In 2023-24, we were reporting that most Ghanaians say the standard of living has gotten worse. Nobody disputed that. Nobody disagreed that people were saying things are hard. When the government changes, we continue doing the same poll, talking to the same people, using a cross-sectional poll. And they are giving us different story now. So why would you think that these people are lying? Why would any politicians with any sense of data think that people are lying to us, that things are hard? Why? 66% of the people are saying Ghana is headed in the right direction. It was 34% in October 2024. At the moment, 67% of voters are saying they approve of the way the Mahama is doing his work. October last year, it was 34% for Nana Addo. At the moment, 56% of Ghanaians are saying that their living conditions has improved compared to last year. October last year, the figure was around 30%. Who said it has improved? When we ask voters about optimism for the future, now 70% are optimistic that things will improve in the future. In October last year, those who were optimistic things will improve were 40% or so, much less. This is the reality on the ground. This is the data. You can't fight this data. If you do, voters will see you as dishonest and they can't trust you. You have to be very honest with data. And see, we speak to voters every day. I sometimes disguise myself and have a normal chat with people on the street just to get a feel of what is going on. Look, if you fight public opinion poll, I am telling you, you will keep sinking because people will think that you think they're stupid. So admit the reality, admit maybe some shortcomings while you were in administration, and then you can take the government on where you think you have a very good case. That way, people will see you as honest and sincere. You can't fight public opinion. Nobody has fought public opinion and won anywhere in the world. It's advice. Nobody has been able to fight public opinion. Then we come to the CRC recommendation, which I find some of the comments from the academia very laughable. Look, the CRC report and the questions we took out there for the public to give us their views, they are not legal matters. We are not asking them about equity maxims. We're not asking them about the theory of this. They are simple recommendations. Professor H. Pempe is recommending that we increase the term from 4 years to 5 years. People, what is so complex about this proposal? My own mother in the village knows 4 is 4 and 5 is 5. Oh, we are moving from 4 to 5. Why would I support moving from 4 to 5? She may have her own reasons. Why would somebody say no? They may have their own reasons. Don't think they haven't got the mental capacity to understand this issue. It means you think that the voters are idiots. They don't understand anything. You are the ones who have knowledge and wisdom. We've had this discussion of term for several years. The media has played a key role in discussion of these things. And when you guys, you politicians, go and sit on the radio and discuss the plus and the minus of 4, 5 years, they hear you. So the argument has been made for several years. Kufo even made mention about 7 years some time back. So this argument is not new. Why would I want someone to be given 5 years instead of 4 years? What we have done is to tell you that a certain proportion of the population see they support the idea of moving from 4 to 5 years. Some say no, they don't support it. So we have given you, in fact, done you a favor. Those who want to campaign against extension, you know where you stand in the public opinion. 34% or 36%. You can build on it. You can make your case stronger by converting people from that majority to minority, to your side to become majority. So why should we be attacked by doing this service? Why? Why? We have given you a baseline that those who say they support is a 57%. So if you are pro that 5 years, then you go on and build on that. Make sure you have a case justification for 5 years. And then when it goes to referendum, you go out there and shout and campaign for or against. We have done you a favor by giving you the baseline. Why should you attack the messenger by bringing this? People in academia attacking people in lawmakers as if Ghanaian voters are stupid. They're not stupid. Remember, majority of Ghanaian voters have senior high and tertiary education. Ghana today is not the Ghana of Rollins. Ghana today is not Ghana of Rollins or go for. So you guys must wake up. You must wake up. Unfortunately for those people, those academia and elite saying people don't understand. Majority of people who have degree and above support the 5-year term. So what do you say about that? They are stupid? The data we have published shows that majority of people with degree and higher among voters support the idea of moving from 4 to 5 years. Are they stupid? Majority of all demographic on educational level support the idea of moving from 4 to 5 years, including those with that formal education. Yes. Those with senior high support, those with junior high support. So it's for you to find a case to find and fight that proposal if you are against, if you truly believe that it doesn't work or it don't work in our favor. That is a baseline case we have given you. Why should you attack us for letting you know what the people think? Why are you fighting public opinion? Why? And then the issue of the private, reducing the age of voters to 30 years. Look, we have shared data that shows that people who are 18 to 25, they're supported by a small majority, but those between 25 and 35, 34, big majority, and every other group supported by big majority. So the people who are even older than 30 years are supporting it. Also, it's a baseline. If you oppose it, in the campaign, you go on campaign and campaign against it. We have given you the baseline. Isn't this helpful? Or you don't know how to use data or how to use polls? Look at the limiting the campaign period to 120 days. People support it. Electing MMCs, people support it. And we have also done a good job by bringing you the views of party affiliates. And we can see on all issues that we polled, except for death penalty, NPP people stand on one side and everybody else on one side. It tells you that if you are NPP and you are against it, your base is solidly behind you. It's a plus. You need to know this. Have we done the service by letting you know this data? What wrong have we done by letting you know that if you are NPP, your base is behind you on these changes? They don't support it. If you are NDC and floating voters and others, they support you. So you know where you stand. The only item we have cross-party support is on the death penalty. And you know it's not political, death penalty. Because people on death row are NPP, can be NPP, can be NDC. So they are protecting what is a national interest. But every other thing else is becoming political. They see things through political lens. And that's how this country has become. And if they see things through political lens, and your party affiliation is dwindling, then you become the minority voice. Because the NDC and the floating voters and the other parties will gang up against you in any referendum. So, to be able to be a force, you must not allow your party affiliation to go down. You must do things to shore up your party affiliation to become a formidable force in the country. At the moment, on the 90-day moving average basis, MDC is about 41% party affiliation. On the moving 90-day averages, NPP around 27% on 90-day moving average. I mean, if you take party affiliation in the field last month or 3 months, and you add the two and average it, it tells you the movement, the shifts in the party affiliation. And that has been declining constantly for NPP. So build your party affiliation up so you can become a formidable force. If you allow NDC to be around 40%, it means in any election, they only need small support from other people to win. Small people. Because they are near 50. They are 40, 41, 42 now. So they will need a small from floating voters and then they will win. So don't let the party affiliation skewed in against you heavily. No. No, don't do that. So that is situation with the feeling of the country, sentiments, and that sentiment is driven by economic factors. In the last election, the top issues facing the country was economy. Now, economy is no longer priority for Ghanaians. That is shocking. That is shocking. In our 6 years of polling history, economy has never been the last, maybe third or fourth issue. No, economy has always been number one. But right now, when we ask people, what are the things that keep you awake in the night? Economy is not one of them. It's not one of them. Now, it is unemployment. And that's where the government needs to really sit up. Youth unemployment is fundamentally the most important issue for every voter right now. Then you have education, rules, and corruption. Economy is now lingering much lower below employment. So we are giving you something free of charge in the name of good governance and democracy. It is not to make any party look bad or good. No. Look at polling beyond just partisan lines. Because we don't just present partisan issues. We present data and give you aggregation or disaggregation based on party. You can understand it better. Now let's come to the primaries, NPP primaries. Look, people must understand sample frame when it comes to every poll. Who did you engage? Did you engage Ghanaians or you engage delegates? When it comes to NPP race or any leadership race for political parties, the views of the delegate matter most, but they are the ones who will go and make that decision. Delegates. But when you talk to voters, general voters, you ask them their preferences, but they don't vote. They don't vote. If you look at the current polling data, two set of polls we've put out. Delegates, Bawumia is 45%, Ken 21%, Brian 3%, near zero for Ebitum and Kwabena Agyarko. But 11% are saying that they won't tell us, but they know who they will vote for. And 9% said they are undecided. Now, you could predict if you didn't have that group of people saying, I will not disclose. You can't really tell where they will go. So that will be our headache. And we have to find a way to identify how likely they will vote for A or B somehow before our numbers come out after January 2024. So we'll do that. Trust us. For the NPP race, that is the race right now. But when you speak to general voters, every voter in the country, from the sample we picked, 56% say they prefer, not they will vote. The word prefer means that I don't have a vote, but if I was to be given a chance to express my preference, I'll prefer Kennedy, or I prefer Bawumia, I'll prefer Ebitum, I'll prefer Bawumia Campaign, or Kwabena Agyarko. So for general voters, it's the preference you want them to see. And why should their views matter? Because when you elect your people by delegate, you bring them to the bigger match where the Ghanaians will decide. So you must also have a view of what Ghanaians think about who should lead the party. When we did for the general voters, you will see that Bawumia is rather on 56% among general voters, but in the delegate he is 45%. Kennedy, on the other hand, is 28% among general voters, but 31% among the delegates. So in that, there's more or less similar. Bawumia Campaign is 6% among voters, but 3% among delegates, about half that performance. And Ebitum is much popular among the populace than the delegate. He's doing 6% here compared to 0% or 0.5% in the other. And Agyapong is doing 4% among the public, but he's doing near 0.4% in the delegate. So these are the views of Ghanaians, not delegates. Now, When you go deeper, you say, okay, these views are views of so many people from all political shades. But what is the view of the NPP sympathizers only? And that is what Joy put out in their report yesterday also, that 73% Bawumia leads with 73%. I think it should be least with that percentage among NPP voters. But you know, these newspaper headlines, the headlines are created just to allow you to go and read more about the story. So they won't put everything in the headline. So the headline may look a bit different, but when you read it, then you tell the story that among delegates, this is it, among all voters, this is it, but among NPP, it's 73. But they won't tell you in the headline. So it is no marginalistic thing they do. And among NPP voters, Ken is 19%, Brian 5%, Erichum 2%, and Agyapong 1%. When you come to NDC people, Bawumia is 46%. 34% is Ken, 7% Brian, Erichum 7%, and 6% Agyapong. Among the floating voters, those who are independent people, not NPP, not NDC, Bawumia is 78, Kennedy is 32, 7% is Brian, 8% is Erichum, and 5% is Kwabena Agyapong. It is not for me to tell you why NDC people want Bawumia or why floating people want Bawumia. If you want to do that as a researcher, as a NPP camp or Bawumia or Ken, you can go there and repeat the same survey and find out. Those who say they are NDC but prefer Bawumia, why are they preferring Bawumia? What are their reasons? Those who say they are floating voters and prefer Bawumia, what are their reasons? Those who say they are NPP and prefer Bawumia, what are their reasons? We are not here to give you everything. You must also go there, spend money, and get your data. We have given you a heads up, and that's all we can do for you.
Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. You can also drop your comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to turn on the notification.